Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something kind of surprising. This idea that chasing perfection could actually be, well, the worst thing for a writer's career.
Yeah, it sounds wrong, doesn't it? We're always told, polish, refine, make it perfect.
Exactly. But what if that's actually harming writers?
Well, that's what we're digging into. We're looking at how traditional critique and maybe a basic misunderstanding of writing as a business really trips up a lot of authors.
Okay, and our main guide here is Kristine Kathryn Rusch's book, right? The Pursuit of Perfection and How It Harms Writers.
That's the one. It's based on her blog post from back in 2012. And honestly, it lays out some pretty uncomfortable truths about the writing world.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack why this perfection thing can be so damaging. We'll look at teaching methods, maybe how they fall short, and the really interesting part for me is exploring this different path, thinking of writing as a career, a real job.
Not just, an art form in a vacuum.
Yeah, and hopefully you listening will get some insights into why so many writers struggle, and maybe find lessons that apply even beyond writing. To any creative thing, really.
Okay, let's dive in.
So Rush starts with this pretty startling story from her workshops. She says she often makes professional writers actually cry.
Which sounds harsh, but it's not how you'd think.
No, not by tearing their work apart. She makes them cry by saying something simple like, I love this story, it's wonderful, mail it.
Just mail it. And the core idea behind that is, look, no story is perfect.
Yeah.
Ever. And chasing that impossible standard, it's just destructive.
It's destructive. And that phrase, done is better than perfect.
Hmm.
It's not just a nice saying. Rush argues it's like fundamental for actually making things.
Yeah, she makes a great point. If there was a perfect story, wouldn't we all read the exact same books and love them equally?
Right. And movie reviews would just tell us which one is the perfect one. It's silly when you put it like that. The choice isn't really crap versus perfection.
No, those are false choices. They just paralyze writers. She even talks about this time an editor, Algis Budrys, gave her and another writer a published story to critique. They found flaws, naturally.
And what did Budrys say?
Basically, ignore them. The story is wonderful, or at least it is to this editor. That's the key part. It worked for the person who mattered.
That editor point, reading for enjoyment, it makes me think of that hypothetical she uses. Imagine Shakespeare, right? He submits A Midsummer Night's Dream to a modern writing workshop.
Oh boy, you can just hear it, can't you?
Totally. Some critiquer, trying to be helpful, says, Bill, look, you've got to lose at least 2 of those endings. The main story wraps up in Act 4, Scene 2, and then you keep going for 2 more scenes. They all kind of work. Just pick one.
And then, because he's a good workshopper, Shakespeare just deletes Puck's epilogue, one of the most famous bits.
Exactly. It highlights how easy critiquing is. It makes the critiquer feel smart, maybe, but it doesn't actually help in that way.
And Rush argues it's uniquely damaging. It's not just unhelpful, it's the psychological hit. Writers end up butchering their own voice, trying to fix imaginary problems.
Which is jarring, because we're taught all feedback is a gift, right?
Right. But there's a huge difference between a reader and a critiquer.
How so?
Well, readers, mostly, they read for fun, for enjoyment, and they vote with their wallets. If you pay for a book, you're invested. You tend to be more forgiving.
Okay, that makes sense. Whereas critiquers...
Critiquers get the work for free, and they're specifically asked to find problems. It's their job in that moment. So guess what? They find problems.
So the setup encourages fault-finding.
Definitely. Rush even mentioned publishers finding that people who got a free ebook were way more likely to write a nasty review than people who paid for the exact same book. Free stuff sometimes gets less respect, The mindset shifts.
So that's why her workshop feedback is so different. It's much more practical.
Totally. She boils it down to 3 things you can say. 1, I liked what I read. 2, I quit on page, where reviews stopped.
Brutal, but honest.
And 3, I liked what I read, and I would have bought this. That's it.
It puts the focus back where it belongs, right? On the reader's actual experience, which is what editors care about, too.
Exactly. Editors read for enjoyment, mostly. They're not paid to critique every submission that doesn't grab them. If it doesn't hook them fast, they just move on. Page 2, maybe, then it's on to the next one.
And this whole idea extends even after publication, doesn't it? The idea of revising books based on, like, 1-star Amazon reviews.
Oh, she calls that complete and utter idiocy. Harsh, but you see her point.
Yeah. She talks about her own reissued novels. Her copy editor found typos, but she refused to go back and improve stories readers already loved.
Right, and she tells this story about another author who revised her favorite novel twice. And Rush just wouldn't buy the new versions because the improvements ruined what she loved about it in the first place.
Wow. So the message is, at some point, it's just done.
It's done. Trust your process, fix the obvious small stuff, sure, but then move on. Get the next thing written.
It reminds me of that Tina Fey quote from Bossy Pants. Something like, the show doesn't go on when it's finished. It goes on because it's 11:30.
Yes, that's perfect. You hit the deadline. You put it out there. Learn from it. Apply those lessons to the next project and keep going.
It's almost a relief, really, letting go of that impossible perfection standard.
It really is.
Okay, so moving on from critique, Rush points out another kind of surprising disconnect. It's about education, how creative writing is taught compared to, say, music or theater.
Yeah, think about it. Music schools, theater programs, journalism, fine arts, they usually have a really strong focus on the career side. Auditions, internships, getting jobs, performance skills.
Right, practical stuff, but creative writing programs, especially MFAs, Rush says they often don't focus much on the professional publishing world.
It's a huge difference. She mentions her own university's MFA program ranked really high, like third in the U.S., but it barely touched on building a publishing career. The emphasis was much more on getting PhDs to teach more creative writing.
Huh. Or getting discovered, like lightning striking.
Exactly. Very little on the nuts and bolts of being a working writer. And sometimes the people teaching haven't actually made a living from writing themselves outside of academia.
That's pretty concerning for students, isn't it? Why does she think that happens, that split between the academic world and the actual business of writing?
Well, she suggests a few things. Maybe this old idea that art shouldn't mix with commerce, or that teaching feels safer, more noble somehow, than the hustle of a writing career.
Which leads us to this interesting concept from her friend Bill Trojan, a bookseller, the neo-pro.
Yeah, Trojan's idea was that a writer isn't really a full professional, a pro, until they've published at least 10 novels.
10. That sounds like a lot. Was that just a random number?
Not entirely. Back in the day, especially with mass market paperbacks, 10 books by one author, that actually filled a decent chunk of shelf space in a bookstore.
Ah, okay. So it was about visibility, becoming noticeable just by the volume of work.
Exactly. Think about authors who have one huge hit, maybe critically acclaimed. Often they write one or two more, then kind of fade away.
Right. You see that happen.
But the writers with long careers, the working writers like, say, Dickens, they produced a massive amount of work. Dozens, hundreds of things. Only a few are considered classics now, but the career was built on consistent output.
So it's about the whole body of work, the oeuvre, not just chasing one perfect book.
Precisely. And that leads to a shift in the fundamental question a writer should ask.
Instead of, how do I write the perfect novel?
Rush says the better question is, how will this book best reach its audience?
Okay, how does asking that change things? For the writer, day to day.
It immediately pulls you out of just navel-gazing about the art, you know?
Yeah.
It forces you to think strategically. Think about the market, the reader, the business side.
The business side. Which might explain another observation she makes, that a lot of really successful long career writers didn't actually major in English.
It's fascinating, right? She points out, like, romance writers are often former small business owners. Mystery writers might have been cops or lawyers. Sci-fi writers often come from science or engineering.
Wow. That is interesting. What's the thinking there? Why would that be the case?
Her theory is partly because they weren't trained primarily to be critics. They didn't spend years in an academic setting that often focuses more on taking things apart than on building and selling them.
And crucially,
Maybe nobody told them over and over again that they couldn't succeed as a writer. They just saw it as a profession, maybe like their previous one, learn the craft in the business side.
which makes the whole successful writers are just lucky idea feel,
Yeah,
well, pretty insulting.
absolutely. Rush is adamant it's not luck. Long-term career writers, they worked harder than everyone else, period. They learned the craft and they learned the business, often without any formal help on the business side. They just kept going.
They treated it like a job.
A profession.
Yeah. Okay, so this really sets up the whole business blind spot. Why aren't writers taught this stuff? Let's talk about that famous Iowa Writers Workshop example.
Right. Their own website, at least when Rush wrote about it, said something incredible. That writing cannot be taught, only encouraged.
Cannot be taught. From a top writing program.
Yeah. And it went on to say that alumni success is more the result of what they brought here than of what they gained from us. It's kind of an astonishing statement.
It really is. It's like they're washing their hands of actually teaching practical skills.
Compare that to, say, music school. They absolutely talk about acquiring skill through Practice, study, drills, performance.
It's expected, but in writing, this talent idea persists, that you either have it or you don't.
And Rush argues that mindset breeds laziness. If success is just innate talent, then working hard almost seems remedial, like proof you don't have the magic gift.
When the reality is,
The reality, she says, is hard work trumps talent every single day. Look at the mega bestsellers. James Patterson, Nora Roberts, Stephen King. These aren't people waiting for inspiration to strike. They work consistently
yeah,
every day.
that work ethic versus talent idea is huge, and the lack of business training, it causes real damage, doesn't it? What kind of mistakes do writers make because of this blind spot?
Oh, major ones, like with agents. Writers are often so desperate for representation, they barely vet the agent. They just hand over huge financial control, sign really problematic contracts.
Contracts they don't understand.
Exactly. They sign things with clauses, like non-competes, that can literally kill their career if they're prolific. Imagine being a fast writer, and your contract says your publisher gets first look at everything you write, even in different genres. You could end up completely stuck, unable to publish enough to live on.
Wow, okay. That's serious.
And then there's just this pervasive attitude that business is bad, that talking about money or marketing somehow taints the pure art.
So writers just ignore it
Yeah.
and let other people handle or mishandle their money.
Pretty much. It allows bad practices to continue because the writers themselves aren't paying attention to the business realities.
It sounds like self-sabotage, especially when you add in that other idea. Rush mentions the feeling that successful books are junk.
Yeah. That's a weird one, isn't it? She gives the example of Jonathan Franzen having that public, well, meltdown almost. When Oprah picked the corrections, he was sort of embarrassed by the commercial success, even while being happy about the sales.
Like success itself was somehow suspect.
Or Eloisa James, who's a very successful romance author, but also a Shakespeare professor. Apparently, she initially hid her romance writing because her university chair thought it would hurt her chances at tenure.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't literary enough.
Seems like it. And Rush mentions James's own mother struggled to accept her success because romance novels didn't better mankind like, Chaucer or Dostoevsky. It's this deep cultural bias against commercial success in writing.
That is just layers of cultural baggage.
Okay.
And it leads straight to practical problems for writers trying to actually earn a living.
Absolutely. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you can't make money writing, or that making money is somehow wrong, you probably won't. Because you'll avoid the very things you need to do: learn marketing, write consistently, understand contracts, treat it like a business.
And this lack of financial knowledge is widespread.
Shockingly so. Rush tells this story about giving a basic financial quiz in her workshops to professional writers, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they flunked it. They just hadn't ever been taught basic business or financial literacy related to their own careers.
So if the universities often aren't teaching it, how do writers learn this crucial business stuff?
Right now. Mostly through what Rush calls the school of hard knocks.
Ouch. Trial and error. Making costly mistakes.
Pretty much. Learning by getting burned, unfortunately.
Hmm.
It's a painful, inefficient way to get the skills you absolutely need.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. The core issue here, for so many writers, it isn't really about talent. It's not even just about craft.
No, it's this really deep, ingrained misunderstanding of writing as a profession, as a business.
Yeah.
This toxic combination of chasing impossible perfection and completely neglecting the business side.
Often reinforced by the way writing is taught.
Yeah, it just sabotages careers before they even get going.
Yeah. So the big takeaway then, for you listening, whether you're a writer or in any creative field, really is that just being good at the thing isn't enough.
Not even close. You need the business skills. You need what Rush calls survival skills. You need to be willing to learn constantly, adapt. The purely talented, in that old sense, they often get chewed up by the system. It's the ones with the work ethic and the business sense who actually build lasting careers.
So here's something to think about. What part of your own craft, your own passion, have you been obsessed with perfecting? And maybe, just maybe, the real growth isn't in more polishing, but in understanding the business side, the practical application.
How would it change things if you shifted your thinking from just working on my novel to working on a novel as part of my career?
Something to mull over. Keep diving deep.